So guys, welcome back. I'm filming this a couple of days before Mania, and this will come out before Mania, so I think it's a good time. Let's do a Mania tier list. I'm just going to rank every single Mania, and what I've got here is I've got goated, I've got very good, I've got decent, I've got mid, bad, and unwatchable. So this will be a lot based on my personal opinion, but also based on community consensus, because I do speak a lot with people in the wrestling community and they obviously have their points. So let's start with Mania 1. Now Mania 1 is the production wasn't great. It had a lot of mistakes, it had a lot of faults, but for historical significance, just because of the historical significance, I'm gonna have to put it in decent. The production wasn't good, the matches wasn't great, but it's so historically significant that it has to go into decent at least. Now next, we have WrestleMania 2. Let me just make sure my screen is recording. Yes, you guys see this probably a lot, but I always get so paranoid if my screen is recording or not. Okay, well, sorry, I digress. Next is WrestleMania 2. That's of course the one that took part in 3 different venues. It was bad. Rumor has it one of the venues the power went out and they couldn't see anything, and you paid for a Mania ticket, yet you still watched a third of the show on a screen instead of live. It's just, I don't know if it's unwatchable or just bad. I'm just going to put it at unwatchable. Next we have Mania 3. This was the first Mania that actually felt like a big deal, and it had a massively standout match. It had Savage versus Steamboat, which is just one of the best matches of all time. It of course had the slam heard around the world. Not the best match ever, but also incredibly historically significant. So I'm just going to slot 3 in at decent as well. I'm not a big fan of the old Manias, but I think decent for 3 is a very fair spot. Then next we have Mania 4, which that's such a forgettable Mania. It was basically just one massive tournament and just Hulk Hogan's ego trip running wild at the end, him celebrating more than Macho Man for winning the World Championship. I still think is it unwatchable? There's a couple of good matches in there. I mean, Ted DiBiase is working there. He was a pretty good worker. Macho Man is working. He's a very good worker. So will I say unwatchable? No. Mania 4 is just bad. Mania 5 is a one-match card, which was Hogan versus Savage. And for my money, Hogan's best match ever. But still, that's just not a good Mania. It had one decent match, and one of my least favorite superstars of all time, Hogan, is in that match. So I'm just gonna say it's just bad. It's not unwatchable, it's just bad. Next we have Mania 6. This was the one with the Rockers and the Orient Express. That was a pretty solid match, but then you had Hogan versus Warrior in the main event. Yes, it was babyface versus babyface, first time to ever happen, but it's just not a good match. It's just 2 lumbering oafs just trading body slams and punches and a big splash, and Hogan kicking out at 3.000000001 and praying, why me, and absolutely just stealing Warrior's moment. This is just bad. I also wouldn't say unwatchable, it's just bad. Next, oh no, we've got Mania 7. Mania 7 is of course the one that was moved to a smaller venue because they couldn't sell enough tickets, and then there was a bomb scare. It had the whole Gulf War conflict, and it was just a tough time. I'm just gonna say this is bad just because of the really tough political climate it tried to navigate but didn't do well in it at all. WrestleMania 8. This was the first Mania that had 2 decent matches. It was the Piper Brett match, and then of course it had the Flair Savage match. The main event should have been Hogan Flair, but apparently that didn't draw on the house show circuit, so Vince McMahon decided to pull the plug. So it had Hogan versus Sid as the main event with a test of strength to open the match, and then it had that botched DQ finish with Papa Shango missing his cue, but it had Piper Brett and it had Flair Savage. So just for that, I'm gonna say it's decent. It had 2 solid matches, and I'm gonna say that makes it decent. I like it for that. WrestleMania 9. WrestleMania 9's got Undertaker Gonzalez with the whole chloroform wrap. It just just bad. Undertaker's entrance with that bird was absolutely 10 chef's kisses. But then it had Bret Hart losing against Yoko, and then Hogan immediately challenging Yoko for a rematch, and Bret being okay with that, and Hogan squashing Yoko in a matter of seconds. And that was just, I'm just going to say, this Mania is, WrestleMania 9 is unwatchable. WrestleMania 10, now we're talking. We had Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels. We had Owen Bret. The Luger Yoko match was a bit of a snooze fest, but apart from that, it was just up and down, just a very good card. So I'm going to put that at very good. I'm close to putting it at goated, but Lex Yoko was just an absolute snooze fest. WrestleMania 11, we had a lot of celebrities in this match. We had the whole Pamela Anderson thing. We had Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow in the main event. Lawrence Taylor, not a good wrestler at all. Of course, one of the best defensive football players of all time. And Bam Bam Bigelow still carried him to a, I would say, passable at best match. But just too much celebrity involvement. And it's just, I would just say, it's literally, WrestleMania 11 is just as mid as it gets. So I'm going to go with mid. WrestleMania 12 was the one with Michaels, Bret, and the Iron Man match. That was solid, went into overtime. Now, what you expect from Iron Man matches is multiple falls. This one, of course, didn't happen. But then you had another part to it, and you had the whole Piper Goldust thing. It's just, that was not good. I'm just going to say WrestleMania 12 is, again, 11 and 12 is both just literally, the word to explain is just mid. WrestleMania 13 has one of my all-time favorite matches. It's got Bret versus Stone Cold, the double turn Stone Cold with the cloud running down his face. Just such a good match. But then you had Taker Sid, which I love Taker, but he couldn't carry Sid to a passable match. And rumor has it that Sid actually pooped his pants in this match. I can't do anything but mid. 11, 12, 13. It's a one-match show. It's Bret, it's Stone Cold, and that's just pretty much the card. It's just mid. That's all I can say for it. WrestleMania 14, this was the whole Tyson thing, the crowning of Stone Cold, which, I mean, that's good. Apart from the opening Battle Royal, this was a pretty solid show, and I can definitely rewatch it even just for the Michaels Stone Cold match, because Stone Cold is just the best. So I'm just going to put that at decent. It's not a great Mania, but decent, I think, is exactly what you can say for Mania 14. Then we move on to Mania 15. Mania 15. What's the best part about Mania 15? The best part about Mania 15 is Rock Stone Cold. Then you had the Brawl for All, which is just such a bad decision. Then you had Big Boss Man being hanged by Taker. Is it bad or is it just mid? I'm just going to say it's mid. It was the start of the Attitude Era, but they haven't quite found their feet yet. Next is Mania 2000. Not Mania 16, it's Mania 2000. This was the McMahon in every corner. It should have been a one-on-one match. It should have been Trips, The Rock, one-on-one. But I believe Mick Foley definitely deserved the main event spot. I don't know why Show was there. It was rumored that it was originally supposed to be Chris Jericho in the match, but be that as it may, the Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit and Angle match was phenomenal. Apart from that, there was TLC, or the Dudleys, Hardys and Edge and Christian doing their thing, but there was no singles matches except for one on the entire card. So just for that, I'm going to say it's decent. I can definitely sit back and rewatch this Mania. It's a decent card up and down. Next, we've got WrestleMania X7. There's no debate about it. WrestleMania X7 is GOATed. There's probably only a few that's going to go in GOATed, and Mania X7 is definitely one of them. It had Rock, Stone Cold. This was when WWE had the best mid-card ever. It had TLC 2. The gimmick battle royal was surprising fun. It's just such a good Mania, up and down all the way. WrestleMania 18. There was the moment Rock Hogan. That was absolutely brilliant, but some would argue it should have been the main event instead of Chris Jericho versus Triple H for the Undisputed Championship with Stephanie McMahon and the dog and all of that. It was absolutely just a one match card, and it wasn't even a good match. It was just the crowd involvement and The Rock's natural instinct to feed off the crowd and turn heel in the match with just, oh man, that was good. But apart from that, it's just literally it's a mid-mania. WrestleMania 19. Now it had the Michaels match. Who did Michaels face here? It was Michaels, Jericho, I believe. It had Angle, Lesnar with that shooting star press. There was one big blemish on this card, and that was Booker T versus Triple H, with Triple H absolutely burying Booker T. That was not necessary. But apart from that, I would say Mania 19 is a very, very good Mania. It's not goated, but it's very good. WrestleMania 20. It was a solid card. It of course had unfortunate trips, Michaels and Chris Benoit ending, which is not ideal. It had Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero celebrating together at the end, which was a very heartwarming moment, not knowing what that would lead to. Of course, I'm not condoning the actions at all, but apart from that, it had the Goldberg Lesnar thing, which was just not good. But it was still a solid Mania. I'm going to say Mania 20 was very good. I think Mania 20 was definitely very good. WrestleMania 21 was kind of a passing of the torch moment. The two new guys with their first World Championship wins, of course, Cena and Batista. Well deserved for both of them. Batista from the Royal Rumble, botched Royal Rumble, by the way, that led to this. And then what else happened at Mania 21? Oh, the first Money in the Bank ladder match, which is, I mean, that's always good, and the first one was incredibly good. This was just also a solid card. I'm just going to say very good for Mania 21. Mania 22, it had the Booker T, Boogeyman stuff that wasn't particularly good. It was a one match show, but that match is Edge versus Mick Foley. Mick Foley, one of the all-time GOATs, truly getting his Mania moment, and just for that I'm going to slot it in as decent. It wasn't a great card, but just that match alone lets it stand out as decent. WrestleMania 23. Now this is the one with Cena, Batista, not Cena, Batista. It was Cena and Michaels with a phenomenal match, and then it was Taker, Batista with a great match. For my money, the best Money in the Bank match there's ever been up to this point. I'm going to say Mania 23 is goated. I'm a really, really big fan of Mania 23. It's one I would definitely rewatch anytime. Mania 24, that was Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather, which was surprisingly decent. It was the triple threat match, Cena, Michaels, Triple H, with Cena shocked face that the two of them fought against each other. No, it wasn't Michaels, because it was it was Triple H, Orton and Cena, not Michaels. Triple H, Orton and Cena. I'm thinking of a different match. And then of course this was Flair, Michaels with I'm Sorry I Love You, and that's such a good moment. It's Edge versus Taker was a solid match. This was a solid one. I'm going to say very good for Mania 24. Mania 25 is the epitome of a one match show. But when that match is arguably the best match in WrestleMania history, I can't put it as goated because that's the only match on this card that's really worth rewatching. But just for that match, I'm going to put it under very good. Mania 26 was of course Michaels Taker 2, which was a very, very good match. Not better than the first one, but still really good. It had Bret Hart, Vince McMahon, the rematch. It was Mania 26. I would literally just be able to say Mania 26 is decent. There's nothing more I can say about Mania 26 except it's decent. Let's talk about Mania 27. It was Cena, The Miz. It was Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler. This set up the once in a lifetime, which became twice in a lifetime. It's just not good. It's not even bad. It's 27 is unwatchable. Probably my least, maybe 9. This or 9 is my least favorite Manias of all time. Mania 28. I can't rank this based on WrestleMania 29, which is twice in a lifetime. I have to rank it based on the show itself. Cena, Rock, the first match was actually pretty good. This, of course, you had Punk versus Jericho as well, and you had the no holds barred match, Cena, Taker versus Triple H. This was a very, very good Mania. 28 was very good. It's a pity it led to the twice in a lifetime, but still, it was a very good Mania. WrestleMania 29 was Undertaker's last great match. It was against CM Punk. This and 28 is literally interchangeable, but I think what just puts it up below 28 is just the fact that it's the twice in a lifetime. It's still a decent Mania, but the twice in a lifetime just didn't work for me at all. But the Punk Taker match was very good. Next we have WrestleMania XXX, WrestleMania sex number. So this, it's easy. Bryan's coronation, the opening match with Triple H was good. The main event was so good. The Miracle on Bourbon Street, that was a bad line from Cole, but it was still just a very good Mania. Just from top to bottom, it was just a solid Mania. WrestleMania 31, the Taker Wyatt match, it should have been so much better than it was. It of course was the curb stomp that led to the RKO. I believe this was at this Mania. Was this also the heist of the century? I believe this was at this Mania. So this is, I would say this was a very good Mania. I think the Taker Wyatt match should have been so much better, and that should have been where the streak ended. I didn't even mention the streak ending at Mania 30. That was also another moment to remember, but this should have been where the streak ended. But this was just a very good Mania. Mania 32 is just not okay. It was a Triple H self-indulgent main event with Roman Reigns. Nobody wanted to see that as the main event. Literally nobody wanted to see that. Yet it was still the main event, just not good. It also had the, which other match was on here that was just not okay? It was also the Taker Shane McMahon, which was just a shambles. This is just a bad Mania. 32 is not a Mania I'd rewatch anytime soon. Mania 33, it was consistent throughout, but nothing particularly special happened at it, except the Hardy Boys making their return in the ladder match. If it wasn't for that, I put it as mid, but just for the Hardys returning, seeing that Jeff Hardy is one of my top 4 favorite superstars of all time, just for that, I'm going to put it undecent. Apart from that, it was a throwaway show, but that made it decent. Mania 34 was the Angle, Ronda Rousey versus the McMahons. That was a solid match. It also had the squash match, which was bad, the John Cena Taker squash match. This is a little bit worse than Mania 33, so I'm just going to put it as mid. It's just slightly worse than 33. Mania 35, for me, this is the ultimate feel-good Mania. It had Kofi going over, it had Seth going over, and it had Becky going over. I still remember thinking to myself, if one of the 3 of them wins, that's a good result. But all 3 of them winning, this might be controversial, but I'm going to say Mania 35 is goated. 3 really, really good matches with 3 super over baby faces winning. That's solid. Mania 36. This was the Pandemic Mania. Not a bad card. It had the Firefly Funhouse match. It had the Boneyard match. I'm a fan of both of those matches, but I cannot rewatch this. It's such a dark time, no audience. I literally, even if I want to, I cannot rewatch it. It's not a bad card, but just for that, I'm going to put it as unwatchable. I can literally not go back and rewatch it. Mania 37 was just too long. Some people say it's still going on as we speak. It had The Fiend and Randy Orton match that just wasn't good at all. It's so long, and just for that, I'm gonna have to say it's bad. WrestleMania 38, another 2-night show, but I have to say the first night was just absolutely incredible. The second night was slightly forgettable, but the first night was incredible. And this is, I'm gonna say, just because the second night wasn't great, the first night was incredible, I'm gonna say it's mid. And then lastly, rounding out with 39, absolutely solid card right throughout. It had the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which is always going to be a good match. It's just such a good card. I would have put it under goated if it wasn't for the last 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes, of course, Cody Rhodes losing to Roman. Apart from that, if it wasn't for that, it would be goated, but let's just put it under very good. And this is the definitive, there's equal amount of goated WrestleManias than there is unwatchable. This is the definitive WrestleMania tier list. And if you disagree with that, then you just don't know wrestling. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoy making these videos for you. Until next time, peace.